I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please rise. Supervisor Watson will give the invocation.
Heavenly Father, may we take a moment of reflection on the people who have served our nation and to those who are doing so today. Bless them who unselfishly sacrifice their time and their lives, that we may have freedom. We ask that you continue to keep this nation under your care and provide a clear vision of your will to our leaders. Guide this board of Mohave County in the decisions before us, and give us understanding and integrity as we exercise our duties on behalf of the citizens of Mohave County. Amen.
Amen. Supervisor Johnson, lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on April 21st, 2014 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Are there any committee and/or legislative reports this morning?
I have none.
Okay, we'll move on. Any county administrators report?
I have no report today, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Number 4, motion to approve the minutes of the February 3rd, 2014 Board of Supervisor meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minute.
Excuse me, January 28th is also on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. January 28th and February 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next up, I'm going to open our call to public. Those wishing to address the board at the call to the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk of the board a call to public request to speak form that looks like this, located in the back of the room prior to the meeting. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to responding to criticism, referral to staff, or placing a matter on a future agenda. Comments are restricted to items not on the regular agenda with the exception of the consent agenda and must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. We have 2 speakers this morning. First is Jack Earhart. Mr. Earhart, will you please give your name and address for the record?
Jack Earhart, 4105 North Adams Street, Kingman, Arizona. Good morning, supervisors, public, staff. I'm here to bring up the fact that Mohave County needs to adopt an AMA, an active management area. Right now we have a giant development sucking millions of gallons of water out at the Wallapai Valley. And there's the way things are going right now, you have no way of knowing how it's going to affect the aquifer for Kingman, the Wallapai Tribe's aquifer, which is up higher, Valley Vista. If you put yourself in line with the work that the state's done at ADWR, Arizona Department of Water Resources, and adopt an active management area, you're managing our water resources. Right now, you're not. You're not doing anything because you don't have that tool and you're not working in conjunction with the state. So I highly recommend that you consider it, look into it. There's been groups put together to look at it, but nothing's moved forward. I mean, we have all kinds of monitoring for clean air, clean food, but we're not paying attention to managing our water resources. And it's a pretty urgent matter for long-range planning, and we're not doing it. And an AMA is just a tool to manage it, and in that tool is a water adequacy study. That big giant development of farming that's going to export it, so you're exporting our water. We're not keeping it and using it for local use. A water adequacy report or study would be done in that process. That would tell you if Kingman's affected, the Wallapai Tribe's affected. Right now you don't know because the study's not being done. I even urge that you consider investigating if you can do that on your own through planning and zoning. So I just recognize it as something urgent to move forward to adopt an active management area for managing our water resources, because other carpetbaggers are on their way. Once they see that this can be done, they're getting ready and packing their bags and they're coming here to take the water. And it's not an unlimited supply. These aquifers are fed slowly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Robert Fenwick.
Do I need to state my
Your
name?
name and your address, please.
Robert Fenwick, Post Office Box 6715, Kingman, Arizona. I'm here today to talk about water. Kingman uses 20,000 acre-feet of water. Mr. Rhodes wants 50,000 acre-feet of water out there. We're going on 15 years of a severe drought. There is no putback to our aquifer. I've talked with Mr. Watson about this, had a meeting with it. I had a meeting scheduled with Joy Brotherton about this. She called me up to cancel, told me the government was more than happy to let Mr. Rhodes take all the water he wanted. There was nothing she could do about it, nothing she was going to do about it, and it was a waste of her time to have a meeting. There are some things that need to be done before he gets these 50,000 acre-feet of water. We need an active management area. This is done with the help of the ADWRs, where our taxes go. Number 2 is a water adequacy study done for Mr. Rhodes and his farming project. The Board of Supervisors has to decide, get off of the fence. Either you're going to let Mr. Rhodes suck our aquifer dry, or you're going to take a stand and save our water for the future generations that are going to live here. The land out by Red Lake has been deemed excessive water use by the Arizona Corporation Commission. They wanted to build a solar plant out there in our backyard, and the Arizona Corporation Commission told them, you cannot use our groundwater, you have to use reclaimed water. That put a stop to that. Mr. Rhodes is going to pump our water and make a product. You can't make 28,000 tons of hay and not send it out of state. When you send a product that you make pumping our groundwater out of state, it's called water mining. It is illegal. I will be watching for Mr. Rhodes when he breaks the law. You can't send a product that you take our water and send it, whether you put it in a container or where you put it. We need to get something done. I gave you all a letter. You have pictures of what's going on. Our water is going down the ditch, an open ditch out into the desert towards Red Lake. This is the way Mr. Rhodes is going to save our water and save us. We have a real problem, and we need some help from our supervisors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
Can I ask not the speaker, but can I ask the county administration to provide at some date in the near future the process to form an AMA together with the pros and cons associated with that?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Moss, absolutely. I think that'd be very prudent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no one else signed up. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the call to public? Okay, seeing none, I will close the call to public at this time. Right now, we have a proclamation. Believe it or not, April is National County Government Month. The theme is promoting ready and resilient counties, how to prepare, respond, and thrive. Governor Brewer has helped Arizona counties honor County Government Month by issuing a proclamation. I will forego reading the proclamation, but will entertain a motion to accept.
I move that we accept the County Government Month proclamation.
Second motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next up, we have our consent agenda. Number 5, the consent agenda, items 5 to 57, will be, that was 57, let me make sure about that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, is there a fair housing proclamation as well? I'm sorry, I made my little cheat sheet, I guess, a little prematurely. Okay, so we have a fair housing proclamation.
I move that we adopt the Fair Housing Proclamation.
Okay.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda items 5 through 57 will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion, minus any items pulled for discussion. This time, do we have any items?
None for me.
23, 29, 41.
23, 29, and 41. Supervisor Watson?
I have none.
Okay.
Chair, I'd make a motion to approve consent minus items 23, 29, 41.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 23, approve a one-year renewal lease term of lease agreement, number 12-SF-15, Community Services, Bullhead City, Arizona, for lease space located at 720 Hancock Road, Bullhead City, Arizona, and approve lease modifications specified in lease agreement, number 12-SF-15, Amendment 1, with all other lease provisions remaining the same. Renewed lease term shall be an additional one-year period from April 15th, 2014 through April 14th, 2015.
Madam Chair, I have a question of Mr. Ansel regarding the lease. I see before we'd asked that they take down their for sale signs. Now we're allowing them to sell the property again while you're in it. Is that true?
Madam Chairman and members of the board, Supervisor Johnson, we have agreed for them to put up the for sale sign. That's part of the negotiation for a one-year lease. We also requested that they would allow us to cancel the lease within 60 days without any penalty if that becomes the issue with any of our funding and so on. Because they allowed us to be able to cancel the lease within 60 days as part of the lease negotiation. They have requested that they're going to put up the for sale sign on the building. And the reason we asked that 60 days is in case we do have some funding, decrease in funding from any of our federal programs, or if we're going to be mandated to co-locate with DES as part of the co-location that the state and federal government is doing, that we'll be able to make those changes without any penalty. And because of that, they have requested that they put up the for sale sign.
Okay. We don't have another location now that we got rid of our other building up there. We gave it away to the city. We have no other location you can be located in.
At this time, we don't have any other location, although there is a move from the state to have a possibility of co-location with DES sometime.
That's the only question I had, Madam Chair.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
We recently moved to that building. So that building is being sold by the owner? Is that it?
When we moved there 2 years ago, there was an intention to sell the building, but they have not put up any for sale sign. And to our knowledge, the landlord has been actively looking for a buyer for the building, and to date, there is no buyer yet, but they have an intention of selling that in the long run.
Can I ask why we moved? What was the reason that was moved to that building? Because it was in another location.
Yes, we used to be in Raymar Road.
Right.
We had, our lease expired in that building, and the cost between the rent for the Raymar property and this there's a difference, and we went with this new facility because, one, it's closer to the building that we have, and secondly, the lease amount is lower than what Raymar property was asking from us at a certain time.
Okay.
We went for a cheaper building.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that, Mr. Chairman? This is before I became on the Board of Supervisors that this transaction occurred, but I remember in conversation about the Alexandria complex
Yes.
where the other location was, someone mentioning that they had actually offered the county to reduce the value to be the same value as to the Raymar property. Are you saying that's incorrect?
Do you remember? That was 2 years ago.
Specifically, the gentleman's name who made that statement to me was Bob Schoen. He's a realtor in Bullitt City, Arizona.
I don't recall that, Supervisor Moss, but what I do remember was there were some other issues with internet connectivity, and from what I understand, they weren't willing to modify the building by adding the tower that we would need so that there would be a better connection.
Mr. Schoen also mentioned there had been discussions regarding the infrastructure, including the connectivity, and said that they had also offered to improve those items. So I'm just trying to clarify as to what the parameters of this discussion were back then. So if I understand what you're saying is, if it wasn't the matching of lease price, there was an infrastructure issue that you thought the landlord had not bothered to address.
I think, and I have to go back to some notes on this one, I think at the end, when the property managers for the Alexandria property knew we were going to move, they decided to do that, but at that time, we've already negotiated our lease with a new facility. At one point, when we were negotiating, it was high, and then later on, when they knew we were going to move, I think it came down. But that was already all done. The lease was already done with the other
So then,
property.
to make sure I have the sequence of events, which is a past sequence from when I
Yes.
wasn't on the board, and so I just want to make sure how these things occur. The Alexandria's owners did reduce the rent to match the the Hancock facility, and did offer to provide the infrastructure that was requested, but the timing was at that time wrong.
Exactly. Plus, I think the facility of the new building where we are right now is much bigger than the old facility that we had. So when we took things into consideration and the timing of the issue, we went with this new building. Yeah. If you want, Mr. Moss, we can look back at the records and I could report back to you on exactly what happened.
No, that's fine. You've given me the generalities of it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I have a motion?
I move that we approve item 23 of the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? On to 29. Approve transferring the fiscal year 2014 user fee revenues in the amount of $35,520 and unallowable salary, benefits, and travel expenses in the amount of $55,876.75 from the Recorder's Surcharge Fund to the General Fund Recorders Org, and authorize a transfer of $100,746.52 from the General Fund contingency to process a General Fund transfer to the Recorder's Surcharge Fund to cover unallowable expense in fiscal year 2013. Now, I know that our recorder, there was a death in her family, and I know she's not here.
Madam Chair, I'd like to continue this till the next meeting, give her a chance to answer some questions.
I would second that motion.
Okay. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 41. Approve position 200801 in 833-23500, state aid enhancement to be unfrozen, and reclassify position 970006 in 1002350 from a probation surveillance officer 2 UFI to a deputy probation officer 2 UFI for the pretrial services pilot program. Increase 833-23500 budget from $1,394,621 to $1,446,491 and authorize the expenditure.
Madam Chair, I guess I'd ask Mr. Timko on this. Are we adding new positions, Mr. Timko, to the budget already?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, my understanding is that we are unfreezing a previously authorized position that had funding taken away prior that has now been restored.
The courts are getting money from a grant to fund a position, correct?
The probation department has grant funding from the state, and the state approves their budget. When they approved it last year, they froze this particular position due to funding. They've now unfrozen it.
Okay, will this money for this new position be coming out of general fund money or out of state money?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, my understanding is that the position, once unfrozen, will be filled by an individual probation officer currently on the general fund. So he will move from the general fund to this grant-funded position. His vacancy is the one that they want to reclassify to a lower position, and which would save the general fund money.
Sounds good.
Is it saving us money if it's not filled now, and we're filling it? If we're filling the position, I don't see how we're saving money. If it was frozen before and we're opening it up, no matter what the cost is, it's costing us more money, correct?
Well, it's costing the state more money from their grant.
It's a grant.
Somehow I'm losing it. We have a grant position, I understand that, but you're unfreezing the position and we're paying for that, no?
We're unfreezing a grant position, and we're filling it with a person currently funded on the general fund.
Okay.
The position that becomes vacant in the general fund will be filled with a lesser paid employee.
Okay, and then I guess the only thing I would have then would be, these people are aware that the grant funding goes away, so does that position.
That's been our rule throughout, sir, yes.
Okay, that's the only question I had, so.
Is there anything else? you
Madam
want?
Chair, I think the courts and the probation chief might have a few words on this issue.
May it please the chairman, honorable board members, administration, council. Supervisor Watson, do you recall a conversation that we had about a year ago where I referenced that the courts and probation continually missed out on pilot programs? And this was usually a detriment to us, to the county, on a twofold basis. Number one, we miss out on any type of upfront funding. That's detriment number one. And detriment number two is that when you get around to then creating the program, you now have the cost of sending your people to Phoenix to attend training, you know, the training costs, the hotel costs, the transportation costs. What we were able to do as part of the pretrial services program, Mohave County is a pilot county for this program. And as a result of that, I was able to work an arrangement with the administrative offices of the court, telling them that we would not have, you know, the funding available to hire someone up front to run the pretrial services program. So what the AOC did is they unfroze a position. Just like the county freezes employees, the state can freeze employees. This is not a grant-funded position. Many of our probation officers are paid by the county general fund. Many more are paid by the state. This is a state-paid position that they are unfreezing so that we can take a county general fund position. They will pay the county general funded position. That opens up the county general fund position to hire someone to come in and run the pretrial services program. And actually, given the way that this works, the state's picking up a higher paid employee as compared to the new hire employee. So it actually
Saves.
is less as far as the salary is concerned.
Okay, so it's going to save us a little money.
It'll save you a little money.
Okay.
Not a whole heck of a lot, to be frank with you, but,
But it's not costing us more.
well, the bottom line is we're hoping that the program will turn around and have more people released on pretrial services, which will reduce the jail cost.
Okay.
I guess the question I have then, we already have a position and funded in the sheriff's department that does this. Are we going to, will that position be eliminated, or can that person be moved over in to fill this position?
Well, that's actually going to be a conversation that I'm going to have with Sheriff Sheehan after today's meeting. We're working out the details on what will occur with that particular position, and that's the sheriff's call. That's not the court's call.
I guess, did we look into that? If we're having two positions that do the same thing, or are we looking at elimination?
Well, actually, the sheriff's department can no longer run a pretrial services program. What happened in the past year is that statutorily, there was no basis for anyone to run a pretrial services program. The majority of the counties that had a pretrial services program was run by the courts through probation. There were a couple of counties, one of those being Mohave County, that had the Sheriff's Department run pretrial services program. The Arizona Judicial Code was amended this past year that provides that the court through probation has the sole responsibility and authority to run a pretrial services program. As part of the pilot program, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Laura and John Arnold Foundation with which to put this program into place. Under the memorandum of understanding, we will be required to provide a report to the court within 24 hours of incarceration as to whether someone qualifies for the pretrial release. And the pretrial release can be with electronic monitoring, can be with supervision, or could essentially be on own recognizance depending upon the level. The current process, what happens is someone is incarcerated, they go to their initial appearance, the court conducts the initial appearance, then refers the matter to the Sheriff's Department as to whether they think that someone should be on pretrial services. On average, it takes approximately 10 days to provide that report. So the county has been paying for 10 days for someone to be in jail that may not necessarily need to be in jail. We will be providing the report within the 24 hours of incarceration. That is the requirement under the MOU.
I guess following up before Supervisor Watson gets in, so now we just basically have a position in the Sheriff's Department that is obsolete, that was doing that before because of the agreement or the decision by the courts, correct?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, like the judge mentioned, this is a conversation that I welcome to have during the budget process to bring back in front of the board. But if we're going to have an effective pretrial services program, we're going to have to look at it, the big picture and staffing requirements. And I don't mean a tremendous amount of staffing requirements. It may be that by combining the funding from the Sheriff's Office for their pretrial services and the funding that we're getting from DOJ, which is not a grant, but unfreezing of a position, that might be sufficient to run a very, very effective pretrial service. And the benefits are tremendous. Like the judge said, the more people that we can keep out of being incarcerated, the more money the county can save, the more effective our program is going to be, especially in light that for no apparent good reason, currently we're keeping those people that are incarcerated from after being arrested for 10 days, when we can actually make a determination on whether they should be incarcerated within 24 hours. The other benefit that we would have with this program is we have the potential to have this program determine indigency. And that's something that the judge and I have to enter into additional discussion on, whether we can actually accomplish that. But gosh, if we can determine indigency within that short period of time, that has a bearing on assigning county attorneys to these people, and it has a bearing on how much funding, how much money these people would be able to reimburse the county for those types of services. So it's very far-reaching, and it's an exciting program, and I'm hoping to bring a very good program in front of the board for your consideration.
And I guess that sounds to me like you're doubling the staff if you're bringing these people over. And while I appreciate your view on let's get people out of jail, there's a reason the police arrest them and put them in jail, so they belong in jail. And the idea of getting them out earlier just because we can, and it doesn't sit well with me.
Excuse me.
Make money.
Excuse me, Chairman Angus, we have a time set for the auction at 10 o'clock.
Okay, well,
In that case, unless Supervisor Watson has something, make a motion to approve this, unless you...
Okay. We have a motion to approve. I'll second the motion for approval without further explanation.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perfect timing. We have on number 57, our 10 a.m. public auction to approve the sale of real property known as Arnold Plaza located at 303 Oak Street, Kingman, Arizona, further identified as APN 303-08-151 and 153 to the highest bidder, plus any escrow fees and other associated costs, including expenses for appraisal and associated publication costs. What do I do?
Madam Chairman, I see some people out in the hallway, which I think is the booth concerning the property. I'm not certain they know whether they're supposed to come in here or not.
Madam Chairman? There's some official language I've got to state. And in accordance with the Arizona Revised Statutes 11-251-9 and under the authority of the Mohave County Board of Supervisors, the property known as Arnold Plaza, located at 301 and 303 Oak Street, Kingman, Arizona, and further identified as Mohave County Assessor Tax Parcel number 303-08-151 and 303-08-153 will now be publicly auctioned. I want to state at this time we have 0 registered bidders in attendance that I'm aware of, but I hereby open the auction officially, and Arnold Plaza will be auctioned at $65,000, and further advise that bids will be raised by $100 minimum increments. And do I have any bids?
I don't want.
Do I have any bids going once?
Mr. Hendricks, if I could?
Yes.
Maybe we should check outside, because I do see some people lingering. I don't know if they're associated with this or not. Thank you very much, Mr. Ekstrom.
They let me know there's no bidders, and those are people from earlier, so you're good.
Any bidders going twice? Any bidders going 3 times? Madam Chairman, there are no bids for Arnold Plaza.
Okay. Then I guess we move on. Now it's time for our public hearings. I'm opening the public hearing on item 58. Discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2014-048, zoning use permit on assessor's parcel number 206-27-048B for secondary residence in the A-R/7A agricultural residential 7-acre minimum lot size zone in the Lazy YU vicinity. That's south of Tomahawk Drive on Arena Drive, Mohave County, Arizona. And the commission recommended approval of this by a unanimous vote. Anyone wishing to speak to this? Okay, I'll close the public hearing on this.
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve item 58 to the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Open public hearing for item 59, discussion and possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2014-049, determine compliance with the schedule for development or to rescind and cause the property to revert from a C-MO 36A, commercial manufacturing open lot storage 36-acre minimum lot zone to the previous zone of AR 36A, agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size, for failure to meet the conditions of approval as specified in Board of Supervisor Resolution numbers 2008-281, 2009-288, and 2011-153, which approved the rezone and extensions of time for a rezone of assessor's parcel numbers 207-12-003-004-006 and -009 in the Franconia Road vicinity, that's south of Interstate 40 between State Highway 95 and Franconia Road, Mohave County, Arizona, and the commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. Anyone wishing to speak to this? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. Anyone?
Madam Chairman, I move that we adopt the commission's recommendation concerning item 59 of the agenda.
Any second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 60, I'm opening the public hearing for item 60, discussion and possible action, approve the placement of a lien for a dangerous building abatement in the amount of $14,598.44 in accordance with Section 110 of the International Property Maintenance Code Assessors parcel number 208-05-219A, unknown address, Yucca, Arizona. The owner of record is John Curtis. Anyone wishing to speak to this? I'll close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion for the approval of the placement of a lien for the dangerous building abatement.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Opening the public hearing for item 61, discussion and possible action, approve a revision to the nursing fee schedule with the effective date of May 1st, 2014. Anyone wishing to speak to this? Seeing none, closing the public hearing.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve item 61 of the agenda.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we're on to our regular agenda. Number 62, discussion and possible action to approve and direct Public Works to modify current maintenance and protection of traffic in accordance with adopted engineering standards for an approximate 1.88-mile unmaintained and unsurfaced section of Heights Boulevard for purpose of relocating an established point of closure from immediately east of Skyview Drive to immediately east of Rice Drive as per request of Bureau of Land Management, and to provide unrestricted access to Desert Hills Fire District Station 4 to and from State Route 95. This was continued by the board at our March 17th, 2014 meeting.
Madam Chairman, I move that we open item 62 for discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, who wants to talk?
I do. And it'll be very brief. I walked this last week. I actually took a stroll, and I think the walk really helped me get this piece of property in mind because the map didn't quite do it. The way it's currently barricaded, and I don't know if there's any way to improve the barricades, is the signs do absolutely no good. People are going to go up and down that road all they like. I will not confess to easily doing so in a county vehicle, but the barricades are ineffective. I also talked with the fire department personnel that were there, and they thought that removing the barricade, and this is the barricade that's being removed, would be the one to the far west of that particular road. Because the paved road comes straight in, Havasu Heights Road comes straight in, there's a very ineffective barricade, and this dirt road, which runs behind some lots to the south and BLM land to the north, cuts straight across to the fire department. And according to the fire department personnel, if that barricade was removed, it would cut approximately upwards of 60 minutes to the response time to getting to State Route 95, because that road, including the paved portion, all connects in a straight line into Highway 95. And other than taking the multiple turns, 2 to 3 turns they would have to take to get to it if they went around. So there is a public safety argument in addition to the BLM's request. So there's a federal request to the BLM, and there is a public safety argument to our local residents to removing that barricade. However, I did also, because I walked it and I saw the houses that were there, note the concerns of the residents because it is a dirt road and people would apparently take their four-wheelers out there and go at a very high rate of speed down that dirt road. And I had two thoughts. I approve removing the barricade and moving it back as BLM has requested. But I think when we do that, the county should consider posting a very low speed limit sign, because now I believe it would be a ticketing offense if they were to go down there at a high rate of speed. And secondly, I would ask if the Public Works Department would take a look at the barricades at the eastern side of the fire department that's down there to see if the coverage can be approved, either by overlapping the gaps, covering the flanks, something of that nature, because my understanding from talking to a few people down there is they like to go that straight shot of the Havasu, the dirt portion, as fast as they can, building up speed to hit the rough area behind it, because these are joy and thrill seekers, and if we can somehow prevent them from getting to the fruits of their efforts, that they will over time learn that it does them no good. And hopefully the sheriff will issue a few tickets and educate the people along that roadway and they're not the residents using it, it's the people who are going to the BLM land to get their quads and whatnot out there. So if there are no further comments, I would make a motion, but I will restrain myself to see whether there's any.
Any other comments?
I have some questions. Are the barricades still up on the east end?
Yes, they are.
I guess my question would be, first of Public Works or whatever, with community development or whatever we call them now. Is that roadway, was it accepted before when they were doing the building out there with all the widths and everything, meets our standards?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, the Heights Boulevard has been declared a county highway. However, no portion east of the paved portion has been accepted for maintenance.
Okay, but there are adequate right-of-ways and everything if we open it up, I guess?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, yes, there is a sufficient right-of-way in place for Heights Boulevard. It's just pending development.
I guess the only thing I would say, Supervisor Moss, was I would think we just open the whole thing up. That way it would keep all traffic out of Havasu Heights. I mean, it's going to be a dust bowl, but you're just bringing them down to make another right turn.
I did not walk the eastern side of the road. I only walked the western side, which was in contention. So my information as to the eastern side of the road is limited to eyeballing it as I walked into the fire station. The western side of the road, the portion that's in contention, is very flat. I mean, I walked it, it wasn't a problem, it was very nice, I drove it, it wasn't a problem. It wasn't as good as paved, but it was as good as a dirt road gets. Eyeballing the western side, or excuse me, the eastern side of it, it looked a lot more rugged. It looked like it was I won't say it was pure desert, but it looked like those desert tracks you see in the middle of nowhere. Just happened to run parallel to Havasu Heights, which would be to the south of it. I mean, this is this is just my view. If we want to consider, I mean, also, as my understanding, BLM has only asked us to open up the eastern side or western side of it. Am I correct about that?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Moss, yes, you are correct. And I may point out that east of Rice Drive is an open construction project. It was previously under development in alignment with a particular subdivision. Those particular sections of roadway east of Rice Drive do have some open areas where it was intended to have culvert cross drains installed, et cetera. So it is actually not suitable for traffic, and I would advise consideration of maintaining that barricade, and BLM saw that as well.
I did see in the distance some orange, but my eyesight being what it is, I didn't know what the orange signified. But what I would suggest, just to keep the option open, is that if we approved the modification requested by Public Works as to the western strip leading up to the fire department, with the caveats, now I would have 3 caveats, is one, that Public Works and Development Services get together and figure out what's the lowest feasible and practical and legal speed limit that could be posted there. Secondly, that they look at their barriers immediately to the east of the fire department so that they can improve it, so it would be more difficult to access it if possible. And finally, that they bring this item back to us in approximately a month to deal only with the eastern side, because in keeping with Supervisor Johnson's suggestion, I would go out there and walk it and take a look around and gather some input.
It is, I guess, it is rugged. I mean, they ran all the construction equipment through there. The only thing I'm seeing is, are we, by putting a barricade in there, limiting people's access to their own property? I guess we don't do that at anybody else's place. Now you're putting up barricades for somebody's property. But I'm fine with whatever you want to do.
I'll make what I just stated in the form of a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, on to number 63, discussion and possible action. The 9 proposals received in response to requests for proposals, number 14-P-04, purchase, lease, or donation of land for the county morgue for either the lease or purchase of land necessary to house a medical examiner.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Questions I have would be of the Attorney Ekstrom. We went out for, I believe, bids from people who wanted to donate land for a possible morgue. We received back more than land donations. Should this be technically, either the board decides on how they want to go, or or define it down into requests for different kinds of proposals such as design builds or remodels. And we got more than just land, I guess, is it?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, I think the idea was to cast a broad net to see what came in. And once we have that information, then we can evaluate specifically what we want to ask for. So yeah, that's a yes to your question.
How would, I guess my next second question would be then how should we proceed with, because there might be more people that might do a design build or other things, what would be your recommendation on how we should proceed with this agenda item for the action we should take on it today?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, we're going to need at a staff level to decide, based upon what we received, if we should if we should change the solicitation to include some of those things. And that ultimately will be where we go. I think right now, this was, as I said, just the first shot at seeing what was available, what ideas people had, and we can move forward from here.
So would it be appropriate then, if the board agreed, just to refer this to staff to come back with a recommendation regarding information that was received under that proposal?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, I think that's what we anticipated. We want to give you an opportunity, if you chose to physically look at and discuss the proposals in an executive session. If you're not prepared to do that or feel it's not necessary at this point in time, that's fine.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay.
With that, Madam Chair, I would propose that we table item 63 till staff believes they're at a point to come back to us with a wider net, or not a wider net, a more narrow scope, a narrower net.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tabled. Number 64, discussion and possible action to accept the Horizon 6 Trail Report for discussion and possible further action.
Madam Chair, I'd move that we table this item for approximately 30 days. I've looked at some of the maps. I've spoken with Mr. Hendricks. Unfortunately, I was not able to get out there Sunday to walk the areas of concern, and I would like to have time to do that. In addition, I probably will do it the same way I go to the east of this Havasu Heights issue on Skyview. So I move that we table item 64 for a period of 30 days.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 65, discussion and possible action to approve the CSA special assessment schedule and authorize payment of the invoiced $5,000 for FY 2013-14 from CSA for the purpose of recapitalizing and creating an ongoing assessment for the building CSA Building Maintenance and Improvement Fund. This was continued by the board from our March 17th meeting. Can I'd like to say something about this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We are part of an organization called County Supervisors Association. We choose to be a part of this organization, and they have the executive board of that organization had come up with a plan to get a reserve going for building maintenance, and they put it out to a vote, as is, I believe, by the bylaws of that organization. We, Mohave County, and I believe one other county was opposed to that vote, but other than that, it passed. We had talked about doing it a little differently than the way that the vote had gone down. However, in retrospect, as I looked at this, this is how I view it. We choose to be a part of this organization, and by such, we agree to be part of their rules. We lost the vote. I think that we should, on this part, do it the way that the organization has it drawn up. However, in the future, I think maybe we need to talk about being a part of this organization at all. We're new, and we've had now a year and a half under our belts to see exactly what this organization does. It comes at a big cost, and I think that would be something appropriate for us to do. But for now, I think we should pay this fee because we're part of the organization.
Madam Chairman, I concur in your comments, and for that reason, I move that we approve the item 65 of the agenda. Reluctantly move that we approve item 65 of the agenda.
I'll second the motion, but I'd have no reluctance.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I believe when this was continued over, direction was given to the county administrator to contact CSA. Did you receive a response from them?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, I did contact CSA via email, pretty much verbatim as what the board requested me to do, and no, sir, I did not receive a response.
So I guess my statement would be, we contacted them, they refused to answer us. They're not asking for money to fix anything that's broken, that needs repair. They're just asking to hold our money in case something goes bad, and for that reason, I oppose just giving them our money.
So noted. And philosophically, I agree. It's just that, we're part of this group, and we lost the vote. So,
I have a pending motion which has been seconded, and I vote aye, even though I do understand Supervisor Johnson's concerns, and I do adopt them as my own. It is the rule, we have the rule of law, basically. We agreed to be bound by these rules, and even though these rules are horrible, not horrible, well, maybe you're exaggerating somewhat, but even though these rules seem to be addressing a problem that has not yet arisen, and it therefore is wasted effort, that's what the majority ruled, so.
okay. So that's your motion to approve?
Yes, and that's been seconded by Supervisor Watson, so I vote
Okay.
yes.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Number 66, discussion and possible action to approve adopting the position of the Mohave County Board of Supervisors that it is in the county's best interest to support the City of Kingman's application for TIGER, which is the Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery Discretionary Funds Program for the Rancho Santa Fe Parkway Traffic Interchange, and authorize the chairman of the board to sign a letter of support.
I move that we approve item 66.
And thank you. I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Isn't it bad enough Kingman has rules, we don't have to do